you got to start you got to get those relationships going in the coach's office, create those ambassadors in there, and then those guys go out to the field, they go out to the locker room, to the field house, and they are spreading the message.
Welcome back to First Down presented by Coach Tools. I'm your host, Justin Tichinell. Please feel free to leave this a 5-star review. It's super helpful for us as we continue to grow the podcast. And also be sure to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Today's episode featured Chris Fisher, the offensive line coach at Ridge Point High School right outside of Houston, Texas. Coach Fisher and we spoke about the importance of teamwork, putting personal agendas aside, and working towards a common goal as a team. So let's dive right into the content, and I hope you enjoy.
I got into coaching. I guess I got interested in coaching and teaching in the middle of my college career. I didn't go to college to be a coach. I thought I was going to be an eye doctor like my grandfather. And then the more I got into it, the more people were just talking, the more people I'd talk to that, kept encouraging me to get into coaching and teaching. And so after a while, I just like, okay, I'm going to try some classes, and it just seemed like such a better fit for me. So I started studying, getting and taking those classes and meeting with coaches. That was a big part of it too. I went back home during the summers to my hometown of Waxahachie, Texas, and I would talk to the current head coach there, who was my defensive coordinator when I played, and so that was really special, developing that different bond with him and getting his advice. Going from player coach relationship to kind of a mentor relationship there, and so I think that was a big factor in me getting into the profession as well. And then once I got my degree and I we came to the Houston area, and I started looking for jobs, and I got into the middle school. And that's one of the things my head coach advised me to do. He's like, the middle school is a good place to start, get your feet wet, but he said, don't stay too long. So I didn't. I coached middle school for like 3 years. And then after that, I moved up to our feeder high school, and I thought that was a really great transition for me, from middle school to high school, of the kids that I was currently, already had a relationship with. And so, I was very fortunate to be part of a really good middle school coaching staff, and then a really good high school coaching staff. And they were very supportive, very developmental, and helping us, the younger coaches, gain experience and get trusted with different roles and responsibilities. And and then from there, I would worked with one of the coach on staff there at Clements High School. I worked with him, and that he was our running backs coach at the time, and then he became the offensive coordinator at Clements, and then he became the head coach at Ridgepoint High School. And so, through my relationship with him, as a football coach, and then also in the spring, honestly, that's where we really got to know each other. As a track coach, I was his assistant track coach when he was at Clements. So that's where we really kind of got to know each other and developed a good working relationship, and just good relationship overall. Um, so him becoming the head coach at Ridgepoint, um, and Ridgepoint being in the neighborhood that I lived in, where my son would go to school, I really wanted to be there. And so it worked out really well, because Ridgepoint was a brand new school. They needed teachers, they needed coaches. And so the second year Ridgepoint was open, they were adding to their staff, and I was able to get over there with him. And so then we started building, like, I was on the very first staff of building Ridgepoint football and Ridgepoint High School, and it was a great experience. and I've been there ever since. That was 2011. Um, until then, up until that point, I had kind of been I'd just been an assistant coach. I'd bounced a little bit around positions, coached the running backs, the receivers. I coached DBs and D line. Um, and then they asked, Coach uh, Coach Sniffen asked me if I wanted to be, you know, the O line coach. And I said, yeah, I think I could do that, and it just stuck. And honestly, it became that position that just like, I was like, oh, wow, this is my spot. This is where I fit, and I did play offensive line in high school. I wasn't like a typical looking offensive lineman. I wasn't very big, but it was just one of those things that, I mean, coaching it made sense. And yeah, and I've loved it ever since. I love talking to those kids and developing relationships and helping them just become really good football players.
For sure. And going over all those different experiences from your time like going in middle school to
Yeah.
the different positions, and then also with the Texas high school chat, can you talk about some of the key lessons you've learned over the years that have helped shape your career up until this point?
Oh yeah, definitely. Just as like as a coach, I've learned so much about, what it means to be part of building something, and to make sure that you're chipping in and doing your part. Opening a high school is no joke. It's not for everybody, but you learn that everybody has to chip in. So you learn to put your ego and put your agendas aside. And it to me, I think, it helps really buy in. When you're building a school, it creates a lot of great buy-in into what everybody there is trying to do. And I think, when I look back on that, on the staff that we were with, that opened the school and started the football program, it was a really special staff, I think, because all of us did have that ability to set our egos aside and not chase our personal agendas, but chase the agenda of the team and of the school and of and the program. And so that, to me, that's the biggest lesson is like, as an individual, if you do those things, if you're able to buy into the program and do what's best for everything and buy in, then your stuff will come. um you mentioned like lessons I've learned from the chat. The chat, I mean, that's really interesting, because there's so much different things. I've learned a lot about, uh, one of the biggest things I've learned is honestly is like how different and how similar things are outside of the state of Texas. Because I mean, I think as you coach in your state, you have like, this is the way it's done. And when you learn about the way other states and other high school associations handle things or don't handle things, you learn how either how special things are. And so like what I've learned is how supportive and important it is to have a really good, strong high school coaches association that builds a great network, but also more importantly, is also fighting for education and fighting for athletics at the state legislature level. Um, I think that's great. They do a great job of making sure that coaches are in the building, and that athletics is part of the school day, not just after school program. And so, learning about how other states do that, how they handle football, and other states do a great job with the way it's put together. And I could just imagine how much stronger they could be if they were able to get more coaches on campus, get football and off season and all those activities during the school day, not just before or after school. So that was one of the first things. The other thing I've learned is, like, I mean, everybody X's and O's are great, and it's and fascinating, but at the same time, to me, I've learned that pretty much, especially now, everything's evolved to everybody runs the same offense is offense, and defense is defense just about,
Yeah.
whereas, like when I came up, I mean, you know, we were in a split back veer and we might face a team that runs the I formation and they're running two totally different offenses. And then every once in a while, a crazy team might have the run and shoot going, and now everybody's running the same thing. It's evolved over time where it's all just a, everybody looks the same to me. I mean, just, who's, who does the same plays better,
Yeah.
who's able to execute it better. Um, and that's kind of that's the interesting evolution of football that I've seen over time. And the next thing I've learned is the fascinating language of football. Like that is something that fascinates me, is how people call things differently, like, and especially defensive coaches, how they call and how they identify offensive sets, like formations and plays and stuff. And it makes me think about how much work as an offensive coach we put in on game planning. Like, oh, we're gonna draw this, we're gonna do this,
Yeah.
and we're gonna get them. And defense goes, that's trips, and this
Yeah.
is, and they got the preset, and that's it, and and that stuff like that. It's interesting to me. So
Yeah, there's so much complexity to the game now. And like you were saying, now more than ever, beyond the X's and O's are so vital to just not only your success as a coach, but just the success of the program. You have to
mm,
be able to adapt to the times and to this completely different generation of kids. Like it's different when I was in school and I'm not that far out. I graduated college just about going on 3 years ago now, and it's like a completely different generation from
mm.
what I'm hearing with a lot of coaches. So I think, just hearing what you're saying, it sounds like you've experienced that too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, the waves of kids that have gone through the programs have definitely changed. Like you mentioned, like the first kids I taught and coached, and they graduated in like the early 2000s. Um, a, a totally different type kids, you know, and they were at the very, to me, one of those big things is obviously the way that they communicate and connect, you know, and you know that ability to send your highlights and do that at the tap of a button on your phone changed a lot of things for a lot of people. And so those kids, I mean, were, I don't know what the difference was, but I mean, it's not like I mean, they knew what other kids were doing, but they didn't, but not to the extent. And then as social media developed, you got to see what other teams, other schools, other kids were doing more easily. And so that changed because now they see like, well, I want that, and let's
Yeah.
go for that, and that changes the way they think about things, or maybe the way that they do things. And then now, you have that combined with a number of factors, coming out of, like, I don't know, I don't know, but the COVID changed a lot of, I mean, just the mindset of a lot of people. Just coming out of that is crazy, or was crazy. And then, you couple that with just an explosion of stuff on social media and the college game changing, and that just washes down to the high school level. So like like the transfer portal has I think the transfer portal in college has blown up high school football in urban and suburban settings because kids are now thinking like, oh, well, we'll just transfer and go here or there or whatever. And
Yeah.
it's just wild. It is wild. And somehow as a coach, who's I'm, a coach who's been there and will be there longer than the kid will, we have to figure out how to coach those kids that come to us because, they used to say, one of the sayings they used to say is like, you got to coach, basically coach where you're at, make the big time where you're at. Well, we got to do that. And we might only have that kid a year before he's like, gone up. So we got to make it big time for him that year before they move on, and it's crazy to think about like that because it's not you're not always coaching kids that developed from middle school and freshman year up through you now,
Yeah.
especially in a school like mine and a suburban and an urban school. And so that's a different challenge, and it's something that it can be very difficult, because you don't get to know the kids as well, and you have to. So,
Yeah, and the interesting thing that you brought up about that, coach, is with the transfer portal. I've heard a lot of like lower level colleges, like Division twos, Division threes, talking about how that's impacted them and recruiting, and just the level of talent that's getting trickled down to schools like my alma mater, Gettysburg College. It's totally different than when I was getting recruited just 6, 7 years ago,
uh,
and I never really heard anybody talk about it, like, at the high school level, but when you think about it, it really is true.
mhm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think about, and that's what I mean, and it makes your ability as a high school program to promote your program and have a good relationship with kids. It makes it even more important because if you want to be successful, if you want to, like you've got to be able to connect and have a positive relationship with these kids that are coming to you when they come to you.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, like we were just talking about with the different generations of kids,
Mhm.
it's gonna keep changing, and I'm sure, and I know you know that better than me, and I think that just seeing these different challenges that arise, and you've experienced it firsthand, who knows what the next one's gonna be, and I think the thing that it always comes back down to, no matter what, is just relationships, and I've experienced that too in my playing days now into my career, and for a coach, for them to have the ability to know how to connect with the kids, but also if you're a high school coach, being able to connect with the rest of your staff, being
Mhm.
having some of those relationships with college coaches to get your kids to that next level. I think no matter what those challenges are, relationships are what is going to stay relevant no matter what the challenges are.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Coach Tools, the football player grading tool for coaches that's better and faster. Learn how to save time and increase your efficiency as a football coach at CoachToolsLLC.com.
Definitely. Yeah. Like you said, I mean, one of the things that I've wrote through my Texas high school football chat is the importance of that relationships, and because those relationships start in the coach's office, and like the head coach, if he doesn't have a good relationship with his staff, those head coaches, those assistant coaches, it's going to be tough for them to be good ambassadors for the program that he wants to run, and that he wants to build. So
Definitely.
you got to get those relationships going in the coach's office, create those ambassadors in there, and then those guys go out to the field, they go out to the locker room, to the field house, and they are spreading the message. And every
Yep.
day, every interaction, they're spreading that message. And every positive interaction that they have with those kids are spreading that message to other kids on the team, other kids in the school. And it just and it's great. And when you have a fully bought in, everybody loves being part of the football program in one way or another. To me, that's the best school setting you can have. And
Definitely.
I feel like I've been fortunate and had a couple of those experiences in my own high school when I was a high school player over 30 years ago, and then a couple times in my career. So it's been good. So
For sure.
yeah.
Well, awesome, coach. Any last words you want to share with the audience today?
No, I mean, I think no, I don't have any more like tidbits of wisdom or anything, but I do know, like, like if you want to come out and see what coaches are talking about, uh, get on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it now, and go to Texas High School Football Chat and see all the good stuff that coaches are doing with their programs. Because honestly, that's my favorite thing about running the chat is I get to help, and I get to help promote other coaches, and I get to see and all the great things that we're doing all the time, and see what coaches are putting out there. And I think high school football coaches are one of the best professions to be a part of, and I'm definitely a proud member.
Yes, sir. Awesome, coach. Well, greatly appreciate you being on tonight. Thanks again for sharing, and best of luck for the rest of this offseason.
All right, thank you, Justin.